He had never seen a sunrise over the Sea of Galilee or the majesty of the mountains. He had never seen his parents' faces or the beauty of colors. He was an outcast of society, believed to have been cursed as a result of sin. Humanity often makes a physical or mental state as a problem to be solved, an affliction to be healed. Metaphors based on blindness are based on the premise that someone who is blind is less than. We blame. We try to come up with a reason. The culture in which Jesus lived wasn't much different. The crowd is sure there must be a reason that this man has been blind since birth, forced to beg at the city gates, to rely on others for his very survival. When the disciples see him, they see a theological question. Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents? Their vision, too, is distorted by the belief that those who suffer must be getting what they deserve. So when Jesus comes upon the man, he spits on the ground and makes mud with his saliva, hearkening back to God's creative act at the beginning of the world. He then tells the man to go and wash in the pool of Siloam. And when he does as Jesus commands, suddenly he can see. Jesus saw this man as someone of value and compassion, worthy of God's transformative power. Out of empathy, out of compassion, he opens his eyes to a new world of possibilities. But that's not the end of the story. The neighbors cannot believe that this has happened, and blinded by disbelief, they keep asking him, "How were your eyes opened?" When the Pharisees hear of this miracle, they interrogate both the man and his parents, trying to dissect and discredit him. Was your son really born blind and now he can see? What do you think of this Jesus? Instead of celebrating Christ's abilities, this miracle challenges their own beliefs and their authority. They are blinded by their own power and insight so much that they cannot see the truth that is right in front of them. We too can rush to diagnosis and judgment as we see those around us through a one-dimensional lens. They must be poor because. She must be incarcerated because. The reason they are being deported is because. As Reverend Bruce Ray's Chow put it, we turn genuine struggles of the human condition into solvable formulas of cause and effect, which then gets warped into the idea that if something bad happens to us, it is because God has determined that we deserve it. If only we could take a step back and be willing to ask better questions. What if the man had asked the crowd, "What are you afraid of?" Or the neighbors had asked, "How do you feel?" Or the disciples had asked, instead of "Whose fault is it?" "How can we help?" We are often quick to jump to conclusions about the man standing on the street corner holding a sign and what must have gotten him to that place in life. We are sometimes quick to assume that someone must have gotten sick because of unhealthy habits. Such beliefs, of course, allow for a false sense of security and control over our world. If we just live a good life, nothing bad will come our way. Of course, we know deep down that is far from the truth. But fear has a way of blinding us, narrowing our vision so that we cling to a set of false beliefs. It is fear that seems to be motivating recent legislative sessions in Kentucky and nationally. And in acting out of fear, decisions are made that can cause great harm. Only when we realize our own blindness can we see with new eyes of compassion, of empathy, of grace. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. Every day we are confronted with situations that challenge our perspectives and our understandings. Instead of jumping to conclusions based on limited knowledge or fear, we are invited to ask better questions and to challenge our assumptions. These moments are invitations for growth, for opening our hearts and our minds. As we go forth into the world, let us strive to see one another not through a lens of judgment, but through the eyes of Christ. For if we have a deep and abiding connection to Christ and his teachings, we can realize that true sight goes beyond physical vision. Through Jesus, we can gain a new perspective to see the world through a lens of love, recognizing each person, every person, we encounter as a child of God, worthy of compassion and understanding. May we all be open to the transformative power of Jesus in our lives, allowing his light to guide us and to illuminate our path. If we do so, we are working toward a more just, compassionate, and loving world. And in so doing, we become bearers of Christ's light, reflecting love, grace, and compassion as we shine brightly for all the world to see. Amen.